Continuing on with the Father series, and this one's called Carrier. I've watched my son-in-law many times carry his sleeping children in the house from the car, place them in their bed late at night when the day is done. They were heavy because sleeping bodies are limp and dead weight. Sometimes he had to climb stairs, and other times he had to lift that heavy kid onto the top bunk. It wasn't easy, but that father, my son-in-law, didn't want the child to wake, so he carried him to his resting place so as not to disturb the child he loved. Deuteronomy 1:31 says, "The Lord God carried you as a father carries his son all the way you went till you reached this place." These words were spoken to the children of Israel after they had grumbled about going to a new place where God was leading them, because they were afraid of the giants that were bigger than they were. But God's words to them were to not be terrified or afraid because God would fight for them, and then he reminded them how God carried them in the wilderness all the way to their present position. In the next chapter it says, "The Lord God blessed you in all the work of your hands. He's watched over your journey through the wilderness. These 40 years God has been with you and you've not lacked anything." And again, God reminds them that the Father carried them all the way through. As they obeyed, their Father says, "Not one town was too strong for us. The Lord our God gave us all of them." Exodus 19 says God carried them on eagle's wings and brought them to himself. That was when they were in bondage in Egypt. And in Isaiah 40, we read that the shepherd carries lambs close to his heart and gently leads those with young. In chapter 46, we're promised that he has made us and will carry us, referring to those with gray hair into old age. And in chapter 63, we're told that he lifts us up and carries us when we're distressed. A good father carries his children in all sorts of situations: when they fall and skin their knees and cannot walk, when they're sick and in need of being carried because they're weak, when they're afraid and darkness is closing in, and sometimes when they can't see and they're lifted up on dad's shoulders and then they can see the world. There's nothing more beautiful than a father carrying a child, is there? That child feels strength and security, and all is well in the Father's arms. Our Father carries us from place to place, even through the wilderness. All the way from childhood to adulthood to the end of life, he carries us. But the truth we walk in is our own idea that what we are facing ahead is too much for us to handle, and it's then that we get weak in the knees. These people were afraid even of the promised land the Father had given them because they saw and heard there were giants there. They trembled because they knew their own inabilities to take the enemies. It hurts the Father's heart when we tremble in fear, worrying he won't take care of us. Have you watched dads with little kids in a swimming pool trying to get the kids to jump? It takes some kids literally forever to make that leap into their dad's arms, knowing he will catch them and carry them so that they can jump again and again. The fear of the water overtakes them and they won't jump until the faith in the Father's arm is bigger than the fear of the vast pool. But my goodness, that child will never learn to swim until he jumps. What makes you feel weak in the knees, and what's your response when you feel that way? We often reach for crutches, so to speak, to let us limp through life. Maybe it's food or drugs or work or other substitutes for strength. But the overall theme of the Bible is the Father that carries us all the way through if we just trust in his arms. My son-in-law knew his children needed to stay asleep and rest because it had been a long day, so he carried them. Our Father knows the same. He carries us when we're weak, which we are often, and it's a complete sign of trust to allow the Father to carry us in times of sorrow and weakness, and other times just to lift us up so we can see where his eyes are above the crowd. A kid's favorite place is to be on their dad's shoulders. It's the best vantage point, and it's exhilarating. Tired kids want to lay their heads on dad's shoulders to be carried, and when that kid falls asleep, the dad is pleased and content to hold that child close. We're all at different streams in life, walking through wilderness for decades sometimes, facing undefeatable giants, or even just tired from all the steps we've taken. And worry sometimes overtakes us at what lies ahead because we've seen everything behind. The Word says our Father's arms are outstretched and everlasting and never too short. His arms gain victory and divide impassable waters. His arms grant favor and they come with might. His arms deliver with mighty deeds and they crush enemies. And those same arms carry us from wilderness walking to places where we can set up homes and live, unthreatened by enemies that once destroyed us. Our Father, the carrier of lambs with gentle arms like sleeping children being carried to their beds at night.